O hidden life, vibrant in every atom, O hidden light, shining in every creature, O hidden love, embracing all in oneness, may each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other.
Thank you. As customary, we will begin with the interreligious prayers, the Gayatri Mantra.
Om Bhur Svah Tatsavitur Devasi Bhuvana Prachodayat. Om Bhuvasvaha Savitvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurbhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Asato ma Satgamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityo ma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Malti, we now have the Zoroastrian prayer by Freni.
Thank you. Shri Pak Dadar Auramazvani Madad Hojoji Gorje Kore Avajiad Pak of Shune Shahe Faredun wa Pak Beram Yazet Panabad Ham Jartushti Madadgar Ham Papi Negedar of Shune Shahe Faredun wa Pak Beram Yazet Madadgar Yatha Ahu Vairyo Yatha Ratush Ashat Chithacha Vanghe Ush Dazdau Maningo Shaute Nanam Angyus Mazdai Shatrem Chai Ahura Aim Drigobyo Dadatavastarahem Yatha Ahu Veryo Yatha Ratush Ashat Chithacha Vanghe Ush Dazdau Maningo Shaute Nanam Angyus Mazdai Shatrem Chai Ahurai Aim Drigobyo Dadatavastarahem Ashem Bahu Bahishtem Basti Usta Asti Usta Ahmai Yadeshai Bahishtai Ashem Sarosh Yazadni Panaho Joji. Thank you.
Thank you, Freni. We now have the Christian prayer by Dipti.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and as we forgive others, please forgive our sins. Do not bring us to the test, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Dipti. We now have Gulu with the Sikh prayer.
एक गुणकार सतनाम करता पुरख निर्भव निर्वैर अकाल मूरत अजोनी सैभं गुर प्रसाद जप आद सच जुगाद सच है भी सच नानक हो से भी सच सोचे सोच न होवई जे सोचे लखवार चुप न होवई जे लाए रहा लिवतार भुखिया भुख न उतरी जे बन्ना पुरिया बार सहस्यारा पालख होवई त एक न चले नाल किव सचियारा होइए किव कुबरे टूटे पाल हुक्म रजाई चलना नानक लिखिया नाद वाहिगुरु जी दा खालसा वाहिगुरु जी दी फतेह बोले सो निहाल सत श्री अकाल.
Thank you, Gulu. And now I request Deepthi to kindly introduce our esteemed speaker. Over to you, Deepthi.
Yeah. Our speaker for today is Brian Lewis Liu Mahdi. This is his introduction in his own words. I became a monk living in a cell of a temple in the mountains of Taiwan, 2 weeks after arranging the funeral for no one to join with me. Quiet, peaceful, respectful meditation filled my life. As the time approached for the 5th anniversary of Mother's crossing, I constructed a cave into which I entered at 3 a.m. and earlier for 100 days that overlapped both parents' birth and death anniversary. The path into the cave was crossed with snow and ice. This concluded. Late June 1980, I stood before the same wall as Bodhirama had sat some 1,400 years earlier and made a commitment to myself to practice each day for 10 years, which I fulfilled in 1990. My practice and meditating continues to today. Turning from prose and argumentative persuasion to poetry and visual contemplation, using the name given during my time sweeping and cleaning the temple floors, Liu Mahdi humbly stands before in this real and virtual world. Welcome, Mr. Brian Lewis Liu Mahdi once more.
Thank you, Deepthi. And it's over to you, Brian Lewis.
Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for the prayers. Good morning, good evening, as the case may be. I'm in Salt Lake City in the United States. It's 10 after 6 in the morning on Thursday morning here. It's minus 3 degrees, minus 4 degrees Celsius. It's rather cold outside. Today I'm going to share with you some thoughts about the idea of eternity. Before we go, though, I'd like to ask you to get a piece of paper and a pencil because I'd like you to write down a couple of things before we start. So I'll give you a moment to get a piece of paper and a pencil. So first, I'd like you to write down the very famous formula that Einstein created, E equals mc squared. And second, I'd like you to write down the following words: Om, Namaste, love, compassion, equanimity, and joy. And as an enticement and perhaps reward for your participating in today's discussion and continuing to the end, I will at the end post a link which you can use the link to obtain 2 free copies of some of my writings. One will be an essay that I wrote for a philosophy class called The Eternals, which I think is appropriate for today's discussion. And the second one would be a few choices of my poetry that were made by some college students here in Utah, saying they were among their favorites of the poems that I've written. So if you stay to the end, I'll post a link, and you can use that link, and you can get 2 free copies of these writings that I've made. So the question for discussion is eternity. The topic for discussion is eternity. And when I first started thinking about this for this talk, my first thought was, is it rational? Is it rational to talk about eternity? If we consider that we live on this planet for 100 years, turn a different concept of time. It's one definition that I've used before is that eternity is everything that could and will and ever did happen. In which case, I felt that that was a reasonable definition of the concept of eternity. But as we live for a few years in comparison to that amount of time, is it rational, is it reasonable for us to discuss a concept like eternity? Why should we be interested in a concept like eternity? Why is it important for us to consider that we are part of eternity or we're not part of eternity? These are questions that philosophers and religious leaders and others have wrestled with for centuries, from the very beginning of time, for humanity. We've been involved with discussions of what is eternity, what is our place in eternity here in our life, and how should we live our life? These questions all reflect upon, in my belief, reflect upon the idea of eternity. I asked you to write down the Einstein formula, E equals mc squared, because a friend of mine told me that people like to have simple sentences that they can easily remember, to call to mind ideas that they feel are important for them. I agreed with him, but I also disagreed with him. But anyway, for right now, we're going to look at E equals mc squared. Certainly, all of us have seen that formula written down many, many, many times. In physics, it has the meaning of energy is equal to the mass multiplied by the speed of light squared. So a very small amount of mass can have a huge explosive amount of energy. And as a result of this formulation, as a result of the research around this formula, the atomic bomb has been developed, and other types of energy sources and weapons have been created and developed. The mc squared is, I like to think of it as efficient life, 2 lives as well. I think that measure of participation, of living in this life, one measure of that is how we behave, how we live our life. That can be summarized in one word, and that's the moral behavior that we demonstrate in our life. If we engage in good activities and activities that are designed, or not designed, but result in helping other people and being compassionate and caring for other people, in taking care of ourselves and other people, of our responsibilities, of our family members, of our community, of our greater world population. This can be expressed, in my belief, as a kind of moral activity, a kind of moral behavior that we can choose to perform in our day-to-day life. The second aspect that we as humans are able to do is the demonstration of compassion. Compassion is a very very important topic, I feel, in today's world, a topic that is in need of a discussion, a topic that is in need of expansion and dialogue amongst ourselves about how to be responsible not just for ourselves and our family and our immediate group of people, but for the larger society as well. And so if we take the idea of morality and compassion, and we use the same formula that Einstein had for compassion for the speed of light, and we square that function, the function of compassion. We also have, it's an interesting phenomenon in this type of mathematical theory, that if you square a number, you remove all negativity from it. So if there were any negativity in my formula, in the sense of compassion, by squaring compassion, we remove that negativity. And E in this case would be eternity. So if we consider that eternity, all of everything that ever happened, all of everything that could ever happen, all of everything that, anyway, all of everything that is possible to ever have happened. If we consider that we, as a human, each of us listening to this are humans, that we as a human have a relationship to eternity, that is a function of our moral behavior and our compassionate behavior, then it creates a formula for us to carry in our mind that simple sentence that my friend told me everybody likes to understand and listen to, and something that's easily that we can easily remember because it's such a common expression, but with a new terminology of eternity equals to our relationship to eternity is equal to our moral behavior multiplied by the square of our compassion. We establish for ourselves a principle. We establish for ourselves a guideline, a post to aim for in our day-to-day behavior, in our day-to-day activities, in our lifelong quest for understanding about what is life about and why we are here and what we are doing. I find when I've shared this with other people, I have generally two reactions that I receive. One reaction is that I'm totally crazy to mix up physics formulas with philosophical formulas. The engineers and physicists who understand their fields very well find it difficult, I could even say impossible, to accept such a restatement of Einstein's theory. On the other side, there's people who are seeking a spiritual awakening, who are seeking answers in their life, who feel that an expression such as this is something they easily understand in their day-to-day activities and behavior, and in this feel a sense of benefit, being able to express the identity of a relationship and their relationship to it in such a simple formulation. So I share this with you because I found over the years, since I had an inspiration. I was driving one day in the mountains of the coastal region of California, and suddenly I had this inspiration, if you will, that this was a way of looking at our I spoke about the practice of Zen meditation and how the Zen meditation arose, and parts of it one of the points that I made in that earlier talk that I bring into this talk now is that we humans are basically unable, we're not able to think about more than one thing at a time. We're not able to time. We confuse ourselves thinking that is that our mind, point to point to point, virtually it seems harmonious. And so in this, we think more than we essentially has identified that that if we think of something, that it's possible. This is a real contradiction, if you will, a real change in thinking from historically how people generally approach life and thought of their goodness and their badness, their good habits and their not good habits in life. They were out of control of them. If we continuously into our thinking a different way of thinking about ourselves, emphasizing the moral behavior, the good behavior, emphasizing the compassionate behavior, bringing that into the forefront of our daily thinking, we can change how we eternity. If we out in today's world, we see an extraordinary amount of violence, of necessary, painful death, and we are bombarded with this message continuously. Media that is such a death. Carry around cell phones that are instant newspapers that act like a magic wand into the world of, and so that world thing is focused on the problems. And so if we have a way of looking at eternity from a different perspective, from my responsibility perspective, rather than the media feeding me all the problems that exist in the world, which in reality I can do very little, if anything, about, it frees me to have a sense of care, of love, of compassion in my day-to-day life. So I suggest that if we can add this additional way of thinking about eternity and our relationship to eternity, that we have control over the choices that I have control over, the choices I make. Do you have control over the choices you make? I want to say, yes, you do, but I can't say that for you. Only you can find the answer for that. So, the simple build habits that grow and grow and grow over time, strengthening your purpose in life towards being the person that we generally hold up as a model for human behavior. The second part that I would ask you to write down was 6 words. And I have a mantra for myself that if you meditate and the 6 word powerful word, it's the creation, it's the sound of everything, it's of a universe, of the heartbeat of eternity. It's the power that drives everything. It means, India certainly use this word continuously in your day-to-day life, without maybe thinking about it, but also perhaps thinking without it. But it's a power that this mind is silent. I'm not loud. I'm speaking in my mind, and I'm saying it in conjunction with my breaths. So intake of breath, I'm saying Om. Exhale, I'm saying Namaste in my mind. The third word I put in my mantra was love, is love. So if I see the divine in you, and the you is part of love, we're doing, and then my mantra is compassion. And so if we add compassion to love, and we add compassion and love to seeing the divine in you and to the sound of creation, can't ourselves as a rock almost, if you will, as a firm place in the turmoil of day-to-day life. Kind of the thing that I use for myself is the word equanimity. Very interesting word to me. And equanimity basically is about what calmness, and it's about calmness in your life. And if you build equanimity as a practice, and it can grow out of compassion, it can grow out of love, it can certainly grow out of seeing the divine in you and the sound of the universe, of creation in Om. We have another step towards creating a way that we can walk into our day-to-day life. We can stand up in our day-to-day life and enter into the types of behavior that we feel are beneficial to ourselves and to our society. And the last word of my quiet mantra is joy. Joy is a very nice feeling. All of us love joy. All of us love to feel happiness. There's absolutely no question in my mind that each and every one of you, each and me too, love to be happy, feel joyful, uh, experience experience the wonder of life, the miracle of life, and this is all part of joy. And so, if we combine this mantra, Om, Namaste, love, compassion, equanimity, and joy, if we can carry, I am sharing this with you, whether you want to do it or not is your choice, but I do this daily in my meditation practice. It's a way of filling up my spirit, if you will, my mind, my heart, with words whose vibrational response is very high in terms of providing a sense of calmness, a sense of happiness, a sense of satisfaction in our life. So if we can put these two together, E equals MC squared, as a simple formula to carry around in our pocket, if you will, and we combine that with a mantra of Om, Namaste, I see the divine in you, love, compassion, equanimity, and joy, we begin to see, view, understand that bucket, if you will, of our life that's full of a lot of emptiness and full of a lot of unhappiness, that we can drip in a little bit of kindness, of compassion every day, and slowly that will replace all the unhappiness that exists in that bucket of water, if you will. And so this is an approach to the idea of eternity that I think is interesting for myself, and I'm happy to share it with all of you here this morning, this evening, wherever you are. We live in society. We live amongst a few and many people, not just in our family, our local community, but growing awareness that we're part of something much larger. We're part of a state, we're part of a region, we're part of a world that is basically something different than what it was 50 years ago or 70 years ago. When I was born 75 years ago, our picture of the world, our understanding of the world was considerably different than it is today. Today, we can do this. My goodness, we have quite a few people on this call today, located in different parts of the world. I see some people I know from Canada, some people from San Diego, a lot of people from India. I'm expecting some people from some Middle Eastern and European countries. Hopefully, they'll be able to join. And this is a kind of miracle of we have of sharing of growing from our knowledge, our wisdom, our participation in events like this. In part of my preparation for today's talk, I went through the very extensive video library that the School of Ancient Wisdom holds. That's all online on YouTube and perhaps some other places. And there's this wisdom that exists underneath the current of common problems of society that we can jump into, if you will. We can sit down and take our time and study and think about and try to build into our life, if you will, better ways of living, better ways of recognizing each other, of respecting each other. I, like you, have been severely impacted by the restrictions of COVID-19. The last 2 years has been a time of tremendous isolation for almost all of us. Fears that are fed by the media on a daily basis, some of them perhaps imagination, but not all of them. And a lot of them are very real. People are dying, people are suffering, people are experiencing a fear because of this disease that is still today creating a lot of havoc around the world. At the same time, having said that, in the midst of all that anxiety, in the midst of that isolation, I have found for myself, and I hope that perhaps others of you have as well, I've found that I have had time to reflect and consider and think about some of the problems of life in ways that hopefully we can find answers for. I suspect, I haven't asked you, but I suspect if I did ask you, each of you, that part of your motivation to participate in this type of talk is to try to find something for yourself that brings some peace into your life, some calmness into your life, some passion for goodness into your life. It takes away some of the fear and even hatred that fills so much of what we see flashing in front of our eyes on a daily basis. So you know, an organization like the School of Ancient Wisdom is quite fantastic. And I am thrilled to be able to be a small piece of a small presentation today and in the past. And, you know, if in the future I'm allowed to, that I'll be honored to do that. But this is a place where we can come together and share without being threatened by ideas, without scaring each other with uncertainty. I'll stop for a moment. Are there any questions? You can type them in the message box, or you can turn on your mic and don't be shy. So,
Hello.
hello.
Yeah, I didn't understand what you replaced E equals MC square. I didn't get that.
Okay, thank you. That's important. So I changed E from energy to eternity.
Yeah, okay.
And eternity is a kind of energy.
Mm.
Because eternity is everything that could ever possibly have happened, according to my definition. And equal, I put as you and me. We're the equal part of it. We're the place, we're the part that this is how we are equal to eternity. And how we're equal to eternity is MC squared. And M is our morality.
Okay, morality.
And how we behave, how we conduct ourselves, how we live our life, how we take care of our responsibilities, how we live in this world, in this society, in this family. And C is compassion.
Yes.
And C is how we express our compassion towards each other, how we can show our concern for each other, how we also live our life. And so in theory, all right, in theory, I want to say that anything about compassion is not, there's nothing negative about compassion. But in practice, there might be possible to identify something about compassion where there's some negativity associated with it. And so when we square something, this is a mathematical function. If we square something, we take out the negativity. So as a human, we are equal to, our place in eternity is equal to our morality and our compassion squared.
Okay. Yes. Okay. It was important to understand.
Thank you for your question. I agree.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brian, my name is Soy. I just want to ask you one small, clarification. In the 6 words you said, starting from Om and ending with joy, you identify any particular things as more important? For example, we found that compassion and what is the other one you said, no? Important, compassion is important in the forum, right? Yeah, morality and compassion. Of course, morality is not there in one of your 6 words. Well, obviously, if you're moral, you're joyful. I think probably there is some thing like that. Or if you're compassionate, you are obviously you have to be morally and ethically good if you have to be compassionate. So it's a fantastic formula. And I think if you have a new Newton's like Newton's formula, you have a new formula, which we should popularize. Fantastic.
Thank you.
You must write a small thesis on it. It may probably 1 or 2 para on this. So what exactly each of this mean? Because we all have heard, but then we can remember in different ways. Instead of that, if you can just make 2 paras and send it to a School of Ancient Wisdom, they could share with us all on the WhatsApp. It would be great, a kind of a takeaway for today from today's event. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. I find for myself that when I'm meditating, those 6 words, those 6 concepts, those 6 thoughts tend to become like a whirlpool. at times. And I have to stop myself and I have to reassert my organization of them. But I don't feel that any one concept is more important than another concept. I feel that they're all supportive. They're all functional. Functional meaning that they can provide value in my day-to-day life. And so I understand that question, but I think that the answer is that there's no difference in import. And that sometimes I feel the need to reinforce one part, and other times I feel the need to reinforce another part. And in my practice, in my meditation, maybe I will emphasize that a little bit more than another part. But it becomes like a wave in a smooth pond of water. It becomes very smooth and very calming and very peaceful, if you will. And in this sense, I find that it's, it has some benefit in my life. I hope it has some benefit in your life or other people's lives as well. So some questions here in the chat box. It's not religious. We're looking for the purpose of that. Nothing, although in spiritual, I don't see any goal in my life. I think that's a real problem for all of us at one point or another in our life. What is our purpose in life? What is our goal in life? Do we need a goal in life? Should we have a goal in life? Should we have a purpose of life? These questions, and go back and you can the look at the Mahabharata, you can look at the writings of Aristotle and Plato, you can examine the philosophers of the ancient world until the modern world today, and those same questions will come into play every day, all the time. And, some of the answers are like, well, don't worry about it and just smile and everything will take care of itself. And there's some truth in that. But I think that we live in, I said before, we live in a society. We live amongst each other. And so if we have a purpose in life, could our purpose in life be to learn to love and respect and care for each other? Would that purpose be a good purpose? Bad purpose? Pretty good purpose. Even if I, so in one of the really difficult kinds of meditation is to meditate about love on somebody you hate. To interact with somebody absolutely or fearful, compassion and joy. This is very, very, but very powerful. You transcend those feelings if you gain control over those parts of your life, then you become a better person. At the beginning, I asked a question. I said, is the concept of eternity, is discussing the concept of eternity rational? I don't know. personally, I can argue that it's not, and I can argue that it is. So one of the questions that I see in the chat box was about the purpose of life. So if we come back to E equals MC squared, and life is part of that eternity. And do we want to have a purpose? Do we want eternity to look at us as evil murderers who destroy the world, who destroy the environment, who don't care about people, who step on people in order to gain physical wealth, material wealth? Is that how we want eternity to look at us? That's not the social accepted. There are people who likely approach life with that kind of perspective. If we if we dive into the pool let the heavens roll past us in through eternity, then what are we? Who are we? Where are we? Questions that I feel by recognizing control over moral choices, passionate control over those choices in my relationship with the fusion. So if I was that, the things of my this that I life is share of passion with people across the possible. Today we are more than we could. There's some more quotes here, or more questions. Thing, but I'm not getting goodness from this is not in my goodness in life. I feel that what is the use of being good? I've been involved in the raising of my grandchildren for the last 8 years, off and on for some periods of time longer than other periods of time. And I've been involved in watching the education of young children because my wife is a first grade teacher. See is that from a very early point in our life, maybe before we can do anything except cry with hunger or happiness, that we're constantly being reinforced to give answers to questions or to issues that if we give the right answer, we give the correct answer, if we give the answer that's being sought, we're rewarded. We are told that we're good. We are told that we are smart. We are told that we are clever. We are told this and that. And we're told if we do it wrong, that we're wrong and that we made a mistake. And if we make the same error more than once, repeatedly, we can be, what's wrong with you? Are you stupid? You can't think you're supposed to do. or how you're supposed to live. And so this question that was posed in the chat box about not feeling a purpose in life because you don't feel loved, I think is part of that reward system that we are reinforced with from a very, very early point in our life. And to try and recognize that doing good has nothing to do whatsoever with being rewarded, with being recognized by others. Doing good has the value of doing something because I feel it's the right thing for me to do. And it's not easy to love somebody and have them not love you. It's not easy to do somebody and have them not appreciate you. Another one of the ancient teachers was Confucius set out a list of rules, if you will, how to behave in our day-to-day life. And one of the rules that the second rule of importance to Confucius was that we should do good things without a care of others and without an expectation, recognition, or reward. We should help in the Christian stories. There's the story of the Good Samaritan. And the Samaritans were a group of people living in what is today Israel, who were considered to be outcast by the majority population. And in one of the stories in the Bible, Jesus sees somebody, I think it was Jesus, anyway, somebody sees somebody who's suffering alongside the road, and they go over and they help them. And they do this even though that person is an untouchable and outcast, somebody of low social status. They do it because it's the right thing to do, and they do it even though they're criticized and condemned by the majority of the population for doing such a thing. So this, to me, is part of the finding the value in your life, part of the reason, if you will, for living your life is to find how to grow beyond the or positive reinforcement, and how to enter the realm, if you will, of kindness and happiness and joy.
You one question,
Of course.
Brian. It is just my curiosity. You said in your talk universe, and you also mentioned home is a divine word. Now I'm just curious, you know, it is not a question, it's just my curiosity. You know, everybody who knows about philosophy, you have explained it from the
This is
with
a big topic across many, many, many platforms of human life. And I feel that there is this energy that exists in the universe. And at times we go into and through that energy, and other times we leave that energy and we aren't part of that energy. And in the Hindu belief system, as I understand it, there's four major epochs of time, experience of qualities of life, from chaos to compassion. And these epochs of time are rather lengthy in terms of years. And during those periods of time, as I understand it, it becomes very difficult for most people to experience happiness if they're in a period of time when it's turmoil and chaos. And so I feel that, perhaps we're entering a period of time at this point in time where we're going into a field of energy that is more conducive to humanity, more conducive to humanity living with kindness and compassion and respect for each other. I certainly hope so. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Your talk was very informative and very useful. Thank you.
So I'm reading the chat boxes.
If there are any more questions, you may unmute and ask.
May I?
Any of
Yeah.
you?
Hi.
Please go
Yeah,
ahead.
hi, Brian. Namaste. I don't know whether it is a question or maybe a guidance or some kind of advice I would be seeking. So, what is your key learnings as a seeker, which you would want, novice seekers to follow or to explore, if at all they get this urge of, you can, I don't know how to translate it to English, jigyasa, what you call it as, or the urge to know the unknown kind of a thing. So how should we manage our emotions, or how should we practice? Because nowadays, no physical gurus, what we can, go and sit in front of them and take the guidance. And as a novice seeker, I keep trying 100 things, and sometimes I don't know which way they, affect me, or which way they take me towards it. I have no clue about the direction. So, what is your?
Yeah.
How should we go ahead and manage ourselves?
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's a very good question, and I think all of us experience that question. And the tradition in your culture is to find a spiritual guide, a guru, who is able to provide support for that search. My experience is that having a guide is very important for most people. And so then the quality of the guide becomes a question. And that is something that I don't think anybody can answer with any degree of certainty. So I think that, first of all, you have to have the wish. You have to have the desire. You have to have the faith. Faith is a very important part of it. That you can overcome, that you can surmount, that you can find answers to the problems that challenge us in that path of searching. For myself, I feel that my search was kind of backwards because I didn't start off on a search for any type of spiritual truth. I wanted a search to provide me with physical exercise to maintain my physical health as I got older in my life. And I was led, if you will, I found a school of Tai Chi, and I began to study Tai Chi with a very old Chinese man. And so your question about having a guru or a teacher that you can sit in front of is also very interesting because that teacher I studied with couldn't speak English. He spoke maybe 10 words of English. That was it. And so how could somebody who couldn't even speak English become a spiritual teacher? And it was through his example, but mostly it was through the practice of this tedious form of exercise, which is tedious in the same sense that breathing, walking meditation becomes tedious with time. And so at this point, it becomes a question of faith. Faith is a very, very important word, a very important concept. I believe, I suggest, that we need to have faith that what we're seeking, that what we're going to try to reach, that what we're trying to obtain for our own life is something that can be accomplished and that can be realized. And that faith is subject to reward from many, many, many different resources, many different sources, books, lectures, any, the place where we receive our inspiration from varies according to our needs at the time. So I think that you're on the path that you want to be on, and so have faith that you can reach where you're going. And then recognize that even if you reach where you're going, there's another place to go after that. Does that answer your question?
To be honest, no.
No? So, yeah, I don't think there's a simple answer. I
Yeah,
think everybody has to find.
maybe sometimes, because certain things are beyond intellectual,
Yeah, experience.
So, yeah, maybe, so because sometimes knowledge confuses me more. Then,
Yeah.
I regret why did I acquire this knowledge? Because sometimes on the path, and knowledge itself becomes an hindrance.
Yeah. One of my teachers. So my training is probably similar to what you're describing. My training is using the mind for argument. I was trained in law, and I have a doctorate degree in law. And so as a person trained in law, I'm trained to dissect and tear apart and argue and restructure with logic. And one of my teachers told me one time, he said, stop thinking, start feeling. And I looked at him like he was completely crazy. I had no idea what he was talking about. But over time, and actually not too long a time, I concentrated on stopping thinking, and I focused on feeling over. There's this web anybody could go look at. It's called heartmath.org, HERTMATH.org. And at this website, they've done a lot of research. They've posted a lot of research about how our heart communicates with our brain and our brain communicates with our heart. And so in terms of the numbers of responses between the two parts of our being, the the responses from the brain to the heart are far fewer in number than the responses from the heart to the brain. And yet we tend to let our brain dominate and control our day-to-day actions. And the sense of separation, the sense of isolation increases as our brain takes more control. And so I mentioned that I've been involved in the care of my grandchildren. One day my grandson was about 2 years old at the time, and he was very upset. He was very tired. He was just in a horrible mood. And he's standing there crying and yelling and screaming, and nothing has any impact on anything that he does. And my wife says, "Do you want an ice cream?" And 1 second, everything stopped, and he was happy. Because he knew that what he wanted was an ice cream. He felt that ice cream coming into his mind. And the turmoil that was going on in his mind evaporated, disappeared. Because he wanted that ice cream. It was something that he could feel. I like to admit that we're like that, but really 75 years of age, sometimes I'm on some ice cream. A shaking of the E equals MC squared is that a way of anxiety, feeling of need. And so if you're reading something that's intellectual, I didn't want to my body and the fear that how can I feel? Maybe it'll have an impact on you. Does that help?
Yeah, much better. Like, I'm waiting for the ice cream.
You like vanilla or
Excuse me,
chocolate?
here. Umapa here.
Thank you.
Hi, Brian.
Thank you so much.
Enjoying you very much. Of course, very enlightening it is. Nice to sit and listen on a nice cool evening. I just wanted to tell Arun, my youngster, that the minute you try to intellectualize everything, it's very difficult for life, Some things are there which you just have to accept and move on. There are great teachers, like great people like Brian, who has experienced their life, and they talk of because of their experience, because they are experienced. So you got a long way to go, maybe, Arun, but then my theory in my life is keep everything simple. Don't complicate things. If somebody said, okay, let go and let go of that. Somebody says, okay, don't hate anybody. So try not to hate anybody. Keep love instead, be compassionate. And all these 6 words which Brian has said, I think that is why I brought in the Gita, because Gita brings in all these, a sense of everyday life. It's not a lecture, saying how you do it, how not you do it, but it is our day-to-day living. That is what Gitopadesha is all about. How you should conduct yourself, how you should do it. The minute the expectation or the intellectual thing comes up, then it's very difficult, very, very difficult to accept, because you go on intellectualizing why, what, how. And by now we know to certain things there are no answer. So best is to not intellectualize everything and keep it simple, keep your life simple. I mean, this is what I've been doing for 78 years, and I think it has helped me a lot to be equanimity, the joy of every morning, just to hear the birds singing at 5:30, 5:45 when I get up. It gives so much joy. So this is the simplest joy which we should enjoy, like how Brian is enjoying his grandchildren. I have not seen my grandson, thanks to Omicron and Corona. I haven't seen him for a long time. He's already 16 now this year. But then what to do? I had to accept it, right? It's not good for me, being comorbid I am also. and living alone at 78, but then I can't have everything. I have so many things to be thankful to God for every day.
Yeah.
So keep your life simple. Don't intellectualize, is what I feel. I don't know what Brian feels about it, but the minute you start, keeping yourself simple and enjoy the joys of life, the nature, what it has to give you, I think you will get rid of a lot of your questionable mind. You start accepting and you start counting your blessings.
One of the things that you're saying, I think, is very important, and that's the idea of gratitude. Gratitude is something that we can express. I did an exercise a couple of years ago where when I woke up in the morning, and I wake up very early, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. When I woke up in the morning, the first thing I would do was I would sit up and I would write for 15 minutes about gratitude, about something I was grateful for. And it was amazing. It was like magic came into the room. Magic filled my soul. Magic. It was just really, really a powerful feeling to express my gratitude, even just to myself, by writing it out.
Journalizing. Yes.
This is another type of practice.
Yeah.
So we have so much to be grateful for. And yeah, there's things that we'd like to improve. And so this comes back to my formula of E equals MC squared. If we can improve things, should we? Can we? Yeah, we can. Can we build a world that has a better future for our children or our grandchildren or for their children? Yeah, we can. Are we? I hope so. It's my purpose, my goal in life right now is to find ways to make the future better for my children and their children. If we can find ways to cooperate, to join together in this, I think that we have a lot of opportunity to improve. I just had my alarm go off, so I am running out of time, and this time the time. So what I'm going to do right now, and you I'll put that essay class that in that essay it pretty much summarizes what we've spoken of. Document that you'll read. Some of my there's 9 different poems that I've written. Poems were chosen by some college students as amongst their favorites from a couple hundred or more that I had written, and so I'll share those with you as well. There is also a place on the people ideas of doing kind deeds, of doing good things in their day-to-day life. I think that from my observation that we need more ability to cut out to take away the distractions of the bad news that we're continuously being fed uh, across the media. So more or less so that's what I had hoped to
It's not often that we get to chat with a monk. Whatever you mentioned towards the ending of your talk, you spoke about creating communities, social media, people kind seekers come together and make the world a better place. So I was wondering if has it got to do with because I believe education is the bedrock for the transformation of any future generation. So a more inclusive education, which is more like which includes the spiritual dimension, which leads to people who might take on high businesses or lifestyles that are more sustainable or
I have an expectation.
activity not to participate in such a thing. I mean, one if people, especially from around the world, and make it a better place.
Your interest and your questions, and we will be happy to follow anybody else. So, you know, I have a problem. I have expectations of being successful.
Right. I think we all do till we grow to
Ah,
a stage where we, you know, you know.
yeah, Ramesh. So there we are there. We
Yeah.
start and then going on nicely.
Wonderful.
There is little disruption, but
I see.
you are from where? Which place?
Raji.
Achha. Then join us.
Definitely, I'd love to get in touch with you. But are you on? I'll probably get your contact number from Sajani or somebody else. Contact.
Okay.
Wonderful.
I will put it. in-
The chat, you can address it to me if you want.
Brian,
So,
I hope
fantastic,
I
Brian.
inspire.
Very good. Thank you.
I hope by aspiring to inspire, I inspire others to aspire as well.
Inspired many of us, Brian, today.
Well, then, you know, what should I do? I should say, get up and let's go do something, right?
Yeah, I've already responded on your website, to your site, you know.
Right. Yes, that's the starting place. And that's just a very, very preliminary step towards creating a platform.
Yeah, I hope we will go a long way.
Yes. And I need help. I need everybody's help.
Brian, a lot of people have appreciated your talk. They think it's a wonderful session, a great session. All that is given in the chat. So thank you so much. Ever so many people have enjoyed this talk. So I'm really happy that you were able to join us all the way from the US, especially with the time difference. Thank you so much. And actually, we look forward to having you at the school sometime. You wanted to come the last time when you were in Singapore, but because of COVID, you couldn't. So maybe post-COVID, we would like to have you at the school and have a good interactive session, you know, face-to-face session.
Yeah, thank you.
So we look forward to that. And with this, we have come to the end of our talk. Thank you so much. Ramesh, are you there? I like Ramesh a formal vote of Master. Over to you, Ramesh.
I'd like to say one thing before we do that, please. I encourage, first of all, thank you for this honor and opportunity. I encourage everybody to use that link and, you know, get your free gifts and see where we can go from here. So thank you very much.
Thanks for the link. Over to you, Ramesh.
Thank you, Sajani. Right. So, Brian Lewis, or should I say Lima D, because that's a wonderful spiritual name. And it's not every day that we get to, you know, hear a monk in a satsang. And it's wonderful and very inspiring actually to associate with such people like yourself, Lima D, because for a person who's been, I think I kind of gathered that you must be around 75 years of age, but if you've been meditating out of your own volition for the past 50 years, you must have started when you were just 25. And especially in the West, for someone to really kind of go out and start speaking when they're 25 is even more unusual. And
Yeah.
I think really maybe gifted souls who are seekers from previous life may have been inspired to spontaneously do this. And I really believe that such people gather a lot of strength by the way of connection with their higher selves, the natural intuition that grows from such kind of earnest practice is immeasurable and something that is of great value to all of us too. Now, when you spoke about E equals MC square, it was really a completely new take. I've never really heard anybody else saying such a thing. E is eternity, equals is you and me, and M and C are morality and compassion squared. And that if we live by this formula, then I think we really are on the path to self-realization. And I jotted down some notes when you spoke, and you said only we can answer our question. Do I have control over what I do or what I think? And probably simple daily practices. And I think it kind of really struck home. It's very easy to say this, and we've heard this before, but probably the strength of your practice has, kind of driven the point that if we develop simple daily practices, that really can make the difference. You spoke about these wonderful qualities of, Om, Namaste, love, compassion, equanimity, and joy that grows out of these daily practices.
Yeah.
And also, what motivates us in coming here to these satsangs, these meetings, that we also want to take away a bit of that and experience that peace and compassion in our lives, letting go of fear and other things. And when you said Good Samaritan, I never knew Samaritans were people who lived as outcasts in Israel. But anyway, we have a very nice definition of Good Samaritan here. But once you are a Good Samaritan, where we do things without expecting anything in return, this is something that has been always, spoken about in our own philosophies here in India and in the East. Then you will find that value in life and probably the reason for living, and to grow beyond the need for this kind of positive reinforcement. So thank you so much for all these tips. And you did mention quite rightly, as many have, that for most people, maybe not all, but for most people, it is important to have a guide or a guru. And of course, the quality of that guide is important. But it all starts really with an earnest desire within oneself, and that faith in the unseen, that you can overcome and find answers in our search. So that was another very key point that kind of stayed stuck to me. Now, and I'm quite amazed that you started all this off with just a simple, search for good physical health. So even though you started with a Tai Chi master who couldn't speak much English, you probably were empowered and uplifted by his way of being, his depth of awareness in his own way. And of course, we all know, and thank you for reiterating the attitude of gratitude. And I am definitely going to make an effort now to jot down something that I'm grateful for, because when you just shared that, it suddenly struck me that, gosh, I never really do these things. I might think about it, but writing down something that I'm grateful for can really infuse in me a lot of positive energy and be uplifted. And thank you also for giving us that link. I do hope it becomes a catalyst for something wonderful going forward. We never know where even the smallest drop in the ocean can make the biggest difference. So even a single person can start off something that can be really wonderful to make this world a better place. So thank you for that. NamasteInspirations.com link. I'm definitely going to go through it and see what comes out. So Brian or Liumadi, thank you so much, and God bless you for blessing all of us too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh. And I'd like to add on here, when you spoke about gratitude, our founder, Manise, always said, have an attitude of gratitude. She would always say that.
Yes.
Okay. So, Ramesh, it's over to the
Right.
Loka Samasta.
Yes, an attitude of gratitude and be a better person every day. So on that lovely note, let us all sit straight with our back, neck, and head aligned. Take a deep breath and let go. Let us connect with each other wherever we are in the world. As a humanity, we belong to one singularity. Let us reach out to all those people in our communities who need love and compassion and healing in these pandemic times. Let us also empower ourselves to be channels of that divine source while we do this Loka Samasta. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Brahmarpanamastu.
And with this, I thank each and every one of you for being with us this evening.